7:38, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Big developments in the Iran-Israel situation, and we heard this from Caroline Levitt yesterday.
Regarding the ongoing situation in Iran, I know there has been a lot of speculation amongst all of you in the media regarding the president's decision-making and whether or not the United States will be directly involved. In light of that news, I have a message directly from the president, and I quote, "Based on the fact that there's a substantial chance of negotiations that may or may not take place with Iran in the near future, I will make my decision whether or not to go within the next 2 weeks." That's a quote directly from the president for all of you today.
Stephen Bucci with the Heritage Foundation, foreign policy and military analyst, joins us. Always great perspective and analysis. Stephen, were you surprised by the president's move yesterday?
No, it's kind of makes sense. The stuff that's going on right now, the president doesn't want to go to war. He campaigned on a very different view. He wanted to stay out of foreign entanglements, but he also has shown that when he thinks it's necessary for America's interests, he's more than willing to do that and do it robustly and well. And then here, we've been watching the Israelis day by day continue to attrit the capabilities of Iran, one, to protect themselves. The Iranians are basically naked right now. They've got no air defenses left at all. But every time they shoot one of their offensive missiles at Israel, the next couple of days, there's fewer missile launchers there because they plot where they are, they follow them, and they kill them. So every day, their ability to retaliate against any action is going down also. So waiting a couple of days makes a lot of sense, has a lot of potential benefits. The biggest being maybe we don't have to do it at all. But otherwise, if we do have to do it, if the president does finally conclude that it's in America's interest to use our unique capabilities, our weaponry that nobody else has, to finally destroy 100% the Iranian nuclear program, then he's going to do that.
One of the things,
but only if it's advantageous.
Right. And one of the things that Iran, and I was talking about this earlier, is Trump, puts it aside for a couple of weeks. Iran is now out there boasting that all of its nuclear material has been moved to a safe place before Israel struck their military sites. This is sort of a common thing for Iran to do, is to say that they've moved their nuclear material. Talk about that. They've said this before. Are they bluffing? I mean, what do you think?
Well, it's not really, call it what it is. It's not bluffing. It's lying.
Okay.
Iran, they're also saying, look, if anybody hits us, they're going to pay a price that nobody can believe. With what? I mean, these guys are the same military that lost to Iraq a decade or so ago, or a couple of decades ago, I guess, who have been unable to do much damage at all relative to what's been happening to them, to Israel. All of their other means of retaliating, which they've always counted on, which were Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, the Syrians, all of that is gone. They really don't have any cards to play, but still they're puffing their chest, they're pounding the table, saying that you touch us and there's going to be heck to pay. Yeah, I'm not believing it. I didn't believe it all that much for a long time. I'm darn sure not believing it in the last couple of weeks. So maybe they did prepare, but they didn't know when Israel was going to attack. Israel didn't give them a lot of warning that would have allowed them to do that. They have kept their stuff under wraps and buried underground for a long, long time, thinking it was safe. And the Israelis have shown, not so much, because Iran is eaten up with Israeli intelligence agencies and their operators. Heck, Dan, they built a factory to make the drones they use to kill all their high-ranking folks inside Iran. It was sitting there. There was a joke on Twitter where they said the Iranians had hit a Mossad headquarters in Israel, and it was a satire site, but they wrote back and said, "Yeah, that's okay, but all our guys are in Iran right now anyway."
So I've got CNN on in here. Iran and Europe meeting. They're having talks in Switzerland today. The Iranians came out, I think it was yesterday, and said that they weren't actually interested in negotiating with Donald Trump because he was in bed with Israel. And Vladimir Putin has come in now, and he is saying that he would be glad to take part in the negotiations. Britain has also come out and said that they would take part in any peace talks as well. I don't know. Is there a place where they could negotiate constructively with Vladimir Putin?
Absolutely not. Vladimir Putin has no credibility. I can't believe the other Europeans want to talk to him other than about his blatant invasion of Ukraine. Yeah. I mean, he's not exactly a peacemaker kind of guy, and but he's looking for credibility. He's looking for people to think of him as the head of a superpower. That's what his whole thing in Ukraine is about, and it's just not there. I mean, the Russians are not a superpower anymore. They're a third world military that happens to own nuclear weapons from a legacy set of programs. I mean, heck, the Russians have to get troops from North Korea to help them. Yeah. I mean, how much credibility do they have as far as being a world power anymore? So that's a distraction. That's nice that the Iranians could say what they want, but they're either going to negotiate with Trump or Trump is just going to take out what's left of their programs. And the Israelis, they don't really care what anybody says. They're going to keep doing what they feel is in their interest to do to protect their people. And, the Europeans can wring their hands and say, well, Israel is not cooperating. Yeah, they've finally given up on trying to please the goofy European governments who are either anti-Semitic or just silly with their approach to this. The Iranians, Dan, for 4 decades have said every time they do a public address, death to Israel, death to the United States, the little Satan and the great Satan. I mean, they haven't backed off on that one whit. Why does anybody think we can still negotiate seriously with them? It's just not doable.
Well, and that brings me to my next question, which is Donald Trump saying, okay, he believes that we can come up with maybe some sort of a diplomatic solution in the next couple of weeks. My first thought was maybe this might be a head fake from the president. He said earlier this week that, he'll make a decision and within seconds, action is happening. So is this possible head fake?
It's entirely possible. Yeah, I don't know that it is. I think he actually would prefer if Iran, came to their senses and said, you know what, no mas, we're done. Come in, send people in, take all the rest of this stuff out of here, but stop the bombing and leave us alone. Because at this point, the mullahs are in survival mode. And, they can pound their chests and all they want. Nobody gives them any credibility. Right now, the biggest threat to the regime in Iran is not the Israelis or the United States, it's the Iranian people. And, they realize their time is limited unless they make some big changes. But they are fanatic followers of a very fringy, Shia Islam cult. It's not the predominant view of Shia Islam around the world. It's clearly not the predominant view of Islam around the world. But, the Iranians think about 3/4 of the Muslim world are as bad as you and I, that they're apostates too.
Yeah.
So This regime needs to go. If we can slow roll this, do those kind of head fakes, hopefully the Iranian people will step up and get rid of this regime. Nobody is blaming the Iranian people for this. Nobody's calling for all-out war against Iran.
Right.
It's war against this regime. And I don't think the participants are going to back off, including President Trump.
Would you call, because there's been some debate on this, as far as the elections in Iran? I mean, how would you describe them? Would you describe them as credible? Would you describe them as rigged? Controlled might be another word I've seen. What would you say?
They're definitely not credible. The mullahs, the very small group of mullahs, choose the candidates. Anybody can apply to run, but they will say, no, you can't run, you're disqualified. And so all of the candidates are people that are completely acceptable to the very small group of mullahs at the top, the Supreme Council. That looks a lot like a Politburo to me. It's just a religious one. And then in the elections, if it looks like it's not going the way the mullahs want it to go, they just change the votes and declare a victor. So no, those are not credible elections. Do the people get to go to the polls? Yeah. They used to go to the polls in Moscow during the Soviet period too. They get to go to the polls in China. These are not credible elections. So no, they're not democratic in any way, shape, or form. They don't pretend to be. Yep. They are entirely theocratic by their rules. And in that regard, they think democracy is an abomination. They think that's the craziest thing in the world. So anybody who's thinking that is really,
misinformed.
The Iranians don't even claim that.
Well, Whoopi Goldberg, among others on the left, believe that they have credible elections. So and that's why I wanted to throw it. I know, it's very funny. Whatever. All right, so
it is. I mean, Whoopi is not exactly a political scientist.
Clearly not, and we're reminded of that every day. All right, last question. One of the things that I thought was actually really interesting is I was reading some analysis of the actual terrain of Iran last night. It's like, and correct me if I'm wrong, surrounded by mountains and deserts. And deserts, they could actually like swallow tanks, from what I understand. Natural fortresses, they would say. So if there was sort of like an escalated battle here with Iran, would it be mostly an air war? What would a battle actually look like? So far, we've seen only bombing, but we've only got 90 seconds left. But, if that happens, what are we talking about?
Nobody wants to go into Iran in a land war. The Israelis don't want to conquer them that way. They got too many Muslims under their control now that are a pain in the neck. They don't want to own Iran. They just want Iran to stop being a threat. The United States has even less interest to do that. So I would say this is going to be completely a standoff war. It's going to be aircraft, drones, cruise missiles, standoff missiles from sea-based platforms. There's not going to be a bunch of Americans running around there. There could be like small numbers of special ops kind of guys going in doing very specific things. But the Israelis kind of got that part covered already. So I don't think you're going to see anything from the U.S. side but long-range standoff capabilities.
And we'll leave it there. Stephen Bucci, always great having you on, and appreciate your analysis this morning. Always, at least to me, spot on, and have a great weekend. It is 7:52 on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7.
97 WTN.